Good afternoon and welcome to this year's conference. I'm so excited that we're able to be together in beautiful Harrogate. Thanks to our host councils, Harrogate Borough Council and North Yorkshire County Council, for the warmth of their welcome to both the borough and the county. Since our 2021 virtual annual conference, local government has once again been at the forefront of the biggest issues facing the country, such as housing shortages, the climate emergency and the future of adult social care, whilst also progressing the nation's pandemic recovery. As we begin this year's conference, additional challenges such as the sudden rise in the cost of living and rehoming thousands of new arrivals from Afghanistan and Ukraine have been added to our priorities. Over the next 3 days, the LGA Conference is the place to explore and debate these and other issues facing local government. As we start, I want to thank councils and everyone associated with local government for your hard work over the past year. You have delivered time and time again, and the next few days will provide the opportunity to look back and celebrate some of our achievements, particularly as we mark the LGA's 25th anniversary. There will also be plenty of chances to look forward and consider some of the opportunities and challenges ahead for councils. We have a packed agenda with several keynote speeches, workshops, group discussions and sessions in our innovation zone. We're delighted to welcome the Secretary of State for Levelling Up Housing and Communities, Michael Gove, who will be outlining his ambitions for communities and local government. Over the next couple of days, we'll also welcome Shadow Levelling Up Secretary Lisa Namdi, Liberal Democrat leader Sir Ed Davey, crossbench peer Baroness Young, and Olympian and media personality Chris Akabusi, all discussing the big issues facing our local communities. There'll be no shortage of things for us to discuss, as this year's Queen's speech set out the busiest programme in more than 15 years. The conference and our innovation zone will give us the chance to discuss how councils can help shape and deliver proposals relating to devolution, inequalities, planning, education, housing, health and care, climate change, and much more. We'll also spend time considering the cost pressures facing councils and households with rising inflation, energy costs and supply chain issues, and how these all impact on the financial resilience of households and local public services. There will also be plenty of opportunities to catch up with colleagues you haven't seen in a while, and also the chance to make new connections in the various networking, lunches, dinners, etc. With over 1,600 delegates, speakers, exhibitors and sponsors, there are unlimited opportunities for conversations. As usual, our innovation zone will showcase the range of ideas and approaches being adopted by councils, focused this year on resilience and renewal. The innovation zone is the place to see local government ingenuity at its best. We'll also be taking you through the new LGA support offer for councils. This programme, funded directly by government, focuses on what you've told us is most important. It's our support to you and your councils to help ensure that local government continues to be the highest performing part of the public sector. We're making this year's conference paperless and our greenest yet, so if you haven't already, do take a moment to download our conference app. The app is easy to use and will help you navigate everything that's happening over the next few days. Simply search for LGA events on the App Store or Google Play. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank in advance all of our amazing speakers as well as our exhibitors this year. Thanks also to our conference sponsors, especially our main sponsor, CCLA, for partnering with us again this year. And finally, I'd like to give a massive shout out and thanks to the LGA team who have pulled out all the stops, working to make the first in-person conference in a few years a roaring success. We wanted to put together a programme that makes you wish you could be in 2 or 3 places at once. I hope you'll agree that's what they've achieved. I'm so excited about the next few days and hope you are too. I'm delighted now to hand over to Councillor Graham Swift, Deputy Leader of Harrogate Borough Council. Councillor Swift.
Secretary of State, elected members, council officers, LGA officials, on behalf of everybody in Harrogate District, residents, our businesses and our hard-working council, I'm delighted to welcome you all to your own LGA Conference at the Harrogate Convention Centre. Harrogate, many of you will know, has repeatedly been voted as one of the best places to live in the United Kingdom. But we want your experience as visitors to our district to be extraordinary. I know that you'll be working and networking hard throughout the week, but hopefully you will take breaks too, and I'll take the opportunity to take peaceful personal time in our beautiful Valley Gardens just up the road, or walk up to the town centre to enjoy the large open spaces of the Stray, indulge in our outstanding cafes and vibrant bars and restaurants. We hope that you will join us in appreciating the God-given joys of our thriving town. We recognise that we've been so fortunate to be located on the cusp of two of the UK's largest and fastest growing cities of Leeds and Bradford. These provide us with the economic growth that drives wealth for everybody in the economy, delivering ultra-low unemployment and opportunities for all. But we're also ideally placed to the gateways of the Dales, part of the UK's most serene and idyllic locations. Together, Harrogate becomes not only a great place to live, but it's also where entrepreneurial businesses can thrive and larger businesses can meet the work and life balances of their employees. We're a great place to work, but we're also a great place to start your work too, with new co-lab type office space and pop-up working stations for entrepreneurs and new business startups that aspire to grow. We are a home to small businesses for commercial innovation, where our economic value is so much more than our origins. Outside of the Harrogate town, but knitted together by a fabulous destination management organisation, are landmarks of great history and vibrant attraction. For those who enjoy the history thousands of years old, there are natural landscape features such as Brimham Rocks, providing outdoor leisure space for families. For the more modernist, seeking history of just 1,500 years or so, or even a mere 1,000, we have Ripon Cathedral in the historic city of Ripon, Knaresborough Castle in what was an ancient but now modern town of Knaresborough, or Fountains Abbey, providing World Heritage landmarks of outstanding importance. Of course, our own town centres, built initially on the more recent Victorian spa town hospitality, and our own natural Turkish baths and royal halls, updated in recent times, a home for entertainment, leisure, relaxation, and for visitors and residents alike. Museums, art galleries, gardens, theatres, and our own HCC, home to the Eurovision Song Contest just 40 years ago. We're a great place to visit too, protecting our history, building on our strengths, and providing modern, lively attractions for visitors of all generations, from sulphurous spa water to modern, sweet-watered economic drivers such as Harrogate Spring Water. We wish to exhibit our town for you so that you become town and district ambassadors for us. Many of you will be aware that devolution is in progress in North Yorkshire, and officers throughout the district are working feverishly hard on integrating North Yorkshire's 7 district councils and the North Yorkshire County Council into a singular unitary council scheduled to be live in April 2023, providing efficiency, scale, synergy, and optimal, simpler, clearer service delivery for everybody. The new North Yorkshire Council will be one of the largest physical geographies of unity scale in Britain, and we hope that many of you keep a close eye on the opportunities to develop your careers, bring families to our towns, and take advantage of our superb schools to participate in building an ambitious unitary council that promises negative carbon growth opportunities through a new and vital combined authority. Harrogate is not only the larger urban population of this new council, but our economic drivers of business, leisure and tourism will ensure we play a significant part in the success of this new council, and our growing and rapidly improving rail access will ensure this remains the case. There is so much going on in Harrogate and North Yorkshire. I hope that you see it. I hope that you feel the economic vibrancy and the ambition of our collective councils to enjoy the natural but well-maintained features of our town. And I sincerely hope you have a terrific conference, that many of you will take the opportunity to see for yourselves why Harrogate is such a great place to live, to work, and to keep visiting. Thank you. Thank you.
Given the Eurovision reference, I think you'll agree that was a top point-winning performance. Thank you, Councillor Swift. It's now my delight to hand over to Councillor James Jamieson, Chairman of the Local Government Association.
Thank you, Mark, for your introduction. It's great. I want to thank Harrogate Council. This is a great venue. I've already had 3 or 4 councillors come up to me and say, isn't this fantastic? More importantly, Michael said, what a great venue, which is the really important thing for me. As I was saying, it's a pleasure to be back here in person. Great historic town, and as I think Graham mentioned earlier, regularly voted not only the best place to live, but one of the happiest places to live in Great Britain. And I'm sure that's going to rub off on us as we go through this. And it's great that we're in person. You know, virtual meetings are fantastic. They save mileage and whatever, but it's not the same as meeting in person, pressing the flesh. And there'll be none of this, James, you're on mute comments. Can I add my thanks to CCLA as our principal sponsor for their continued support. It is only with sponsors that we can deliver such great conferences, so thank you very much for that. I'm looking forward to the programme. Mark mentioned some of it, but we have over 100 varied sessions, and it's going to be a really great opportunity for us to sit down, think of new ideas, share best practice, talk to each other, and frankly celebrate everything that's great in local government. But before we get into our proceedings, let's just take a moment to look back over the last 25 years of the LGA.
At the beginning of the LGA, there'd been conversations about whether we could create a single local government association going back to the early 1990s. And Sir Jeremy Beecham was one of the leading people having those conversations. Lots of people said you couldn't do it, but Jeremy and others believed that it was essential, and they put the hard work in, and by 1997 we were there. The day after the 1997 general election, one of the first things that the new Deputy Prime Minister, John Prescott, did was to ring Sir Jeremy Beecham, the chair of the LGA, and say, I want a meeting with you today. That was unheard of, but that marked a very different relationship between central government and local government because the LGA existed.
The LGA has definitely helped by making local government more effective through its peer review systems and mentoring to help individual councillors to be better councillors, both at running councils and also representing their individual wards.
LGA unites local government and gives it a voice with and to the national government. So, you know, strength in numbers and the ability to go knocking on the door of number 10 and saying, this is what local government thinks. The LGA is cross-party, and that was one of the things that I find really good, that you work with colleagues, you have common interest, and you use the politics productively.
The work that we started in my time, greater integration between local government and health services. You cannot improve local health, you cannot deal with people at a local level unless local government is at the very centre of it.
LGA is really a weird beast. It's a bumblebee that should never be out of fly, really, and it is a fantastic place to be part of. And when we all pull together to do stuff, we get good stuff done. I still get the most pleasure from when Theresa May announced at the Conservative Party conference that she was lifting the housing revenue borrowing cap. And for me, that was fantastic because that's allowed loads of councils to get back into the house building space. And it's all well and good people saying we need more homes and we need more affordable homes, but talking doesn't get the job done.
When I was elected chairman, it was all about Brexit, and then we had COVID. We're just getting over COVID. We now have Ukraine. And at each point, local government has stepped up and supported our residents. And if we're really going to succeed as a country, it's place. Place matters. It's where you live, and it's working at a place level. And that's why devolution is so important, taking powers away from Whitehall and embedding them in the community with community leaders. And that's who councils are. If we speak as 343 separate voices across the country, we will not be heard. But when we combine and speak as one voice in alignment, we will be heard, we do get heard, it does make a difference. That's who you are here today. You are the community leaders that can help your community deliver better. Wow, isn't it great to see just how much we've achieved in the last 25 years by coming together and working together across party. Thank you to all of those through whose leadership we've been able to deliver so much for our communities, such as the return of public health, as Gary mentioned, the removal of the HRA cap, and getting £1 billion back from the Icelandic banking crisis, to name just a few things. And the key has been the single voice for local government on a cross-party basis, putting residents first, not politics. And can I thank our 4 political group leaders, Councillor Izzy Seacombe, Councillor Nick Forbes, who is now Sean Davies, Councillor Joe Harris, and Councillor Marion Overton for their hard work and direction overseeing the work of the LGA. I must, of course, also pay tribute to Sandy Bruce Lockhart and Simon Milton for everything they did during their time as chairman of the LGA, and who are sadly no longer with us. Both are greatly missed by the local government family. But we need to look forward to some of the current and coming challenges. When we met 3 years ago, nobody could have predicted COVID, nobody would have predicted Ukraine or the cost of living crisis. COVID demonstrated once again just what local government can do, and I'd like to say a personal thanks to all of you who have helped your communities through this crisis. Fantastic, well done. As leaders of place, councils will be the key to rebuilding our communities after the pandemic and rebuilding our economies. There will be much we will want to build upon from the pandemic, including the community spirit, the resilience shown by people through COVID. And we've seen communities come together like never before, which was yet again demonstrated in the celebrations for the Queen's Platinum Jubilee. But moving on, Ukraine. Following Russia's illegal, unprovoked invasion of Ukraine, I am heartened and amazed at how the public has stepped forward to support those fleeing war. And councils have rapidly responded, developing new services and programs of support for our newest and some of our most vulnerable members of society. And I'd like to pay particular thanks to Michael, Secretary of State, and Lord Harrington for really engaging with us, willing to do things differently, not starting a process with all the answers at the start, but working with us to find those answers as we move forward. Getting 85,000 refugees into the UK and into a home is a fantastic achievement, and I think we can all be proud of achieving that. But, there's always a but in these speeches, those underlying issues from a few years ago are still with us, if not more so. Adult social care, demographic pressures, a shortage of care workers, inflation, and now care reforms, which, while laudable, are placing a huge pressure on councils. We agree with the cap. We agree there should be a fair cost of care. We agree care workers deserve a decent wage. The problem is it has to be paid for, and implementing and monitoring the system will take additional resource, which we do not have. The health and care precept needs to be genuinely shared, not sucked into the NHS. But it's not just money. The system is at full stretch. There is not the capacity. And we really would urge government to allow time to learn from the trailblazers before rolling out all of the charging reforms further. And in the longer term, we need a place-based approach to health. Locally led, with a focus on prevention, early intervention, rather than cure. As I keep saying, nobody wants to go to a hospital, they'd rather be well. More widely, all councils play their part in improving the health of our residents, with our housing and green spaces vital to improving the well-being and tackling social isolation. And that's why it's positive that government has listened. The new integrated care partnerships will be locally led, and we continue to push for the health system to be place-focused, not acute-focused. Looking at children's services, SEND and children's social care are also increasing issues. Not only are these expensive, but the system is dysfunctional. We, as a society, can and should do better because we all want the best for our children. Now, we lobbied hard on this, and it's welcome that some of our suggestions were incorporated in the SEND review, the Education White Paper, and the McAllister review. These reforms have the potential to make a real difference, but only if health and schools play their part. The LGA will continue to push for this and that they are locally held to account. And of course, we need more investment in services that support children and families so that families stay together. Housing and planning. Housing is one of our big issues. It's too expensive and all too often of poor quality and unsuitable. And there's a need to address climate change. We do need more homes, but this cannot be solved by a planning free-for-all. And that's why we lobbied so hard for a plan-led approach. And I'm genuinely pleased that after 13 years in local government, where every planning reform seemed to make it worse, we have, in the Levelling Up White Paper, some reforms that have a genuine chance to make the planning system better and improve our communities. Focusing on a plan-led system with more of the land value uplift funding vital infrastructure, a focus on quality and incentivizing build-out. It doesn't fix everything, but it's a real welcome step forward. And at the LGA, we look forward to working with government to make practical those principles that were laid out in the Levelling Up White Paper. Now, I constantly remind government and the Secretary of State that decision-making and funding should always, I emphasize always, be devolved down to the lowest practical level. Local communities are best placed to address the issues they face, led by councillors as their locally elected and accountable leaders. Now, I know the Secretary of State has shown he is committed to devolution for all areas of the UK, which is welcome. But there's much detail that needs to be fleshed out. And we all need to help Michael in this, because we need to help him in his battles with the rest of Whitehall to free the tentacles that suck stuff back in so that services can be delivered faster, more effectively, and locally. For instance, bidding for short-term funding through 448 different grants and funding stream is no way to run efficient government. Clearly, long-term, single-pot funding for councils is a benefit both to central and local government and the communities that we serve. Finally, money. You know, last November, I was quite pleased. I thought we had a reasonable settlement, albeit a bit too focused on council tax rises. But what a difference 6 months make. Nobody could have predicted the war in Ukraine, and we've seen a dramatic increase in costs, way beyond anything we could have anticipated. The LGA analysis published today shows that rising energy prices, spiralling inflation, and increases in the national living wage are set to add 3.6 billion of additional pressure by 2024-25. Now, yes, long-term funding, less burdens from government, single pot, and alternative revenue streams would help. But quite simply, the numbers just do not add up. And I'm sorry, Michael, I do always ask for more money, and believe me, I do always ask for more money. But could we have a government funding version of the triple lock for local government? We desperately need to protect budgets and services from the impact of inflation, without which there will be some real service cuts to some of the most vulnerable in our communities. Now, the LGA will work with you to get through these difficulties, both through lobbying and as the single voice for local government, and through our outstanding local government sector support programme. Finally, I just want to talk about, I keep saying finally, I've said that twice. Democracy matters, and Tanya Gray-Thompson mentioned this earlier. Democracy matters, and democracy can only happen if people feel safe to participate in public life. You know, we all stood for election because we wanted to make a difference for our communities. We didn't stand because we wanted to be abused. No councillor, no officer should have to face abuse. And yet, the LGA's review Thank you. Unfortunately, the LGA's review published today has shown that 7 in 10 councillors experience abuse and intimidation. And I've heard some really harrowing stories. It's not just online abuse, but it's in person. And in some extreme cases, it's physical attacks on our property and our person. This cannot be right. As Baroness Gray-Thompson said earlier, we cannot allow this to become normalised behaviour. Not now, not ever. The LGA Civility and Public Life Programme of Work aims to tackle these issues, and you can read more about our findings and the campaign in our Debate Not Hate report, which we're launching at conference this week. And please do visit the stand on Debate Not Hate, and please get a picture taken there and tweet it and publicise it. Really important. Now, looking to the future, we have a new Parliament and a government driving forward a range of reforms to empower local leaders to deliver in housing, planning, education, and combat climate change. And there's a real opportunity for councils to look at what the next few years may bring. The councils are at the forefront of place shaping, and we need to develop a long-term vision which addresses the challenges that our communities will be facing in the next 5, 10, 20 years. Now, the LGA has commissioned some analysis that explores some of these big ideas as we look forward to that long-term policy agenda. And Ben Page is actually going to be exploring this analysis. Is it tomorrow? I really would urge you to come along. It's going to be quite thought-provoking about, what does the future hold? And that's going to be a start of a conversation across local government, which begins here at conference. We'll also be inviting councils to engage with us and with these ideas, and we really look forward to you sending in your own ideas, because the councils and your local leadership are integral to the future. And I want to take the opportunity to thank you again for everything that you do. As the nation navigates these uncertain economic headwinds, I'm confident that as local leaders, we will continue to stand strong, resolute, and determined in delivering the best for our communities. We will build back better, and we'll do that by building back local. I look forward to speaking to many of you over the next few days and having a couple of beers, please. Thank you very much for listening to me. Thank you very much for re-electing me for another term. Thank you. And with that, I will hand over to Izzy, Councillor Izzy Seacombe.